Hello everyone, welcome to yet another Cave Diver React video. This one was submitted to us. I hadn't seen this video before, which is pretty interesting because he has 2.5 million views or 2.4 million, something like that. He has a lot of views, but essentially is the video recorded of a dive that didn't go very well. There's really not, it's not a cave dive, it's an open water dive, but I think there's a lot to learn from it as well. And again, I'll add kind of my pointers throughout the video as well. So let's get started with a diving disaster. So as you can see, there's 3 divers doing their advanced training. I believe, depending on the agencies, some of these advanced training, you have to dive down to 100 feet in order to get your advanced training. On the agency I work with, SSI, in order to be an advanced diver, you don't necessarily have to dive deep. You just need some specialties and 24 dives. So 4 specialties and 24 dives, but the 4 specialties could be something other than deep diving. I recommend that you, focus on deep diving eventually for sure. But anyway, you need 4. All right, so Doug, I think, is the guy filming. And then there's 2 other instructors, and then there's Nikki, who apparently is a dive master, I assume, because she seems to be very helpful. And as you can see, he's saying that she's the girl that keeps everyone calm. All right, so they're going down in this line. So there's a line all the way to the bottom, which is great. I love when we have lines like that, and the line is so clear that it looks like they just put it in. And then this guy says, "My eardrum is gone." So let me pause here for a second. So here's what happens. For those of you who are non-divers and watch this channel, first of all, thank you so much for watching it and learning some, facts about diving. And hopefully you'll become a diver someday. I hope you get inspired from watching this channel. But what happens is, as you go down, right, Boyle's law, which is this, this law, science law basically, says that as you go down, as pressure increases, the water pressure increases, the air is compressed by that water pressure. And one of the biggest misconceptions about diving, and one of the questions that I get about diving the most is, do you feel a lot of pressure as you go deeper? And the answer is no. You don't feel any, at least I don't feel any different when I'm diving at 20 feet or 120 feet or 220 feet. It doesn't really matter. And that's because the water doesn't really put pressure on anything that is not gas, that is not air, which means your blood, your bones, your hearts, like everything that has liquid in it doesn't feel the effects of the pressure. But anything that has gas, like for example your lungs, will feel the effects of compression. So that compression pushes your lungs and decreases them. The deeper you go, the more pressure you exercise on parts with air. There's a couple of other parts in your body that have air. The sinuses, for example, have air. And also your ears have air. And what happens is, you learn very early on your scuba diving class that you can equalize by adding air into those things. Like your lungs is easy because you're breathing, so you're constantly adding air. So you don't need to equalize your lungs. That's not a thing. Doesn't matter. You're just breathing and you're good to go. But your ears and your sinuses, you do have to add air to it. And you learn a couple of techniques in order to add air as you go down. Also your mask, because it's a pocket of air sitting right on your face. If you don't equalize, your mask will, get sucked into your face basically. The gas inside the mask is going to get compressed, so the mask is going to really hurt you. And I don't want to spoil it, but there's a reaction video coming up where you'll see kind of what happens when you don't equalize your mask or you don't add air to your mask. But, again, let's just focus on this one. So you learn techniques in order to equalize your ears and your sinuses. The same technique that you apply works for both. So you don't have to learn one for one and one for the other. It just works for both. So what you do is, as you go down, you learn to add add air to your ears, to your eardrums, basically, so you don't damage them, you don't injure your ears. So this guy, Doug, I think is his name, is going down, filming. It's going down this line that the dive shop or the operator they're using has set up, and he's not equalizing properly. And proper equalization doesn't mean that he's not using the right technique, but what happens is, if you go too deep, the technique that you know how to use to equalize, and again, they're doing an advanced class, so these guys are certified divers already. This is not like an open water, I don't know what I'm doing type of thing. These guys should know how to equalize by this point for sure. So what's happening is, in order for you to equalize, if you try and you're putting too much effort into it and it's not working, what you're supposed to do is go up, or at least stop descending. So you're equalizing, you're using the Valsalva technique. Let's just say you're blowing, pinching your nose and blowing, trying to blow through your nose. Obviously it's pinch, which means it's going to force air into your sinuses and your ears. And as you're doing this maneuver, you're supposed to do it often and effortlessly. So you're not supposed to be like trying really hard in order to add air. If you're doing that, you're going too deep or too fast. So what we teach you is, take your time, do it often. If it doesn't work or if your ears are hurting, go up, stop, go up a couple feet, try again, didn't work, go up a couple feet, try again. That was easy, keep going down. So you descend and you equalize along the way. One of the things I would love to learn is the equalization technique free divers use, fun fact, because they have some other cool techniques that you don't need to pinch your nose or do anything like that. They just know how to do it. And it's one of the things you learn when you learn how to free dive. And I've never taken a free diving class, so that's one thing. If you have a really good free diving instructor that will be willing to teach me at least, that will be great. But I happen to have, I don't know if it's a curse or a blessing, but I happen to have a super sensitive, I guess, sinus and ears, because I never have to use the technique. I never have to equalize. I just self-equalize. I don't even know how that works really medically, but I just know that I start going down and I can feel my ears just beep, just adding air along the way, and I never have to equalize. I actually, when I'm with students, this is a secret, only you guys, so just please don't tell anyone. This is a secret. When I'm with students, I pretend to equalize so they see me and it reminds them to do it, because they don't have the physiology I have, where I don't have to equalize ever. Like, my ears just work by themselves. I never have to, move my jaw or anything. It just works. I don't know how. I don't know why. It just works, and it's great to have that. But when I'm with students, I pretend. I do this. I just pinch my nose. I'm not really doing anything. And it's not really for me. It's for them. It's a reminder of, all right, I got to do that because I don't want them to get injured. So if you're doing your training, you always start in a pool. Even if you don't equalize, when you get to the bottom of the pool, let's assume it's a 12-foot pool, 4-meter, deep pool, then your ears are going to hurt, but you're not going to bust an eardrum at that depth. I mean, some people might if they're really weak, eardrums or whatever, or have issues with their ears. But for most people, you can go to the bottom. If you don't equalize, you'll feel the pain, but you're not going to permanently injure your eardrums. But if you go down to 100 feet without equalizing, you will bust your eardrums, right? And that's why you learn how to equalize very early on your open water class. So this guy just keeps going down, which he has no reason for it, because there's a line. So it's not like, well, if I don't keep going, I'm going to lose my people. Like, I'm going to lose the other divers. I'm going to lose the other instructor. If that lady, which I assume at this point she's a student, because if she was a dive master, they would have probably sandwiched the students in the middle with the instructor below and the dive master or dive guide on top. Even if she was a dive master in training, she would be on top, kind of keeping everyone together. And as soon as she sees that somebody's having a problem, she would have stopped and say, okay, let's go up, like, let's fix it. There's a line. There's no reason to rush to go down and bust your eardrums. Like, no one would want that, because here's what happens when you bust your eardrums. Vertigo. That's what happens. The line is not over terrible pressure. You can see already the bottom. Like, it's not super deep. And I actually did some research when I watched this video. This wreck that they're diving on in South Africa is... It starts at 27 meters and it goes all the way down to the sand at 36 meters. In feet, that's 118. So it's not a super deep wreck. These guys only have one tank, so they're not going for depth. They're just hitting the wreck. And in this case, he doesn't even... Is this the wreck or the bottom? It looks like it's a wreck. So they're probably right at the top on the deck. So 25 meters or so. They're not super deep at this point. But still, if you have vertigo, if you don't know where you are, I mean, I can only imagine this is a really, really tough situation. So he's moving his hands a lot, which is never good. And actually... Everyone, like all the students, seem to be moving their hands a lot. And actually, if there's one thing that you as a new diver, I recommend you practice, is trying to move through the water without using your hands. Especially as you get into night diving and you have to hold lights, your hands are no longer available. So if you rely on your hands a lot, once you go into a night dive, once you want to get into taking pictures, once you want to, you know, kill some lionfish like we like to do here in the Atlantic Ocean, where they are, you know, species that is, you know, we need to eliminate it. It's an invasive species. Whatever you need to do with your hands, you know, get into rebreathers, go into use a DPV. Like you just cannot rely on your hands for movement. And we all do this, by the way. I rely on my hands as a swimmer, especially. I was a swimmer growing up. You know, I use my hands a lot, and now I don't, because over time you kind of lose the need to use your hands when you're doing turns and you're moving around the water. So if you're a brand new diver, just go to the pool. Even at the pool, like, you don't have to go into cool dive sites. Go to the pool and just do circles without using your hands. Try to use them less and less. You know, practice your buoyancy, swim around, turn. You know, do all the different moves without using your hands. It's really going to be a skill that is going to help you. So the fact that they're using their hands a lot tells me they're very, you know, new divers. All right, so you see everyone is just hands, and they're all vertical. So this guy is telling the other guy, like, there's a problem with my ear. This is the signal for problem. Problem with my ear, right? Then this guy, for some reason, knocks the regulator out of his mouth. So now this guy has a busted eardrum, and now he has to find his regulator. Recovering your regulator is something you do very early on in your diving career, basically, or as you learn. So we teach you how to recover your regulator. I appreciate that he sped up the video. So right now he's like struggling to find his regulator. He's way off the wreck. So he went up like 20 feet or so, 5 meters, 6 meters, I don't know. Now he's kind of coming back down. The instructor's finally shows up. This guy is, I don't even know where he was. He only has 2 students. It's not that hard. But he finally shows up and says, hey, you know, what's going on? Let me help you out. He's like, I have a problem with my ear. There's nothing the instructor can do. It's not like I can do surgery underwater. So the instructor is like, are you okay? At some point, I assume the student says, I'm okay. A lot of students do that after you ask them a couple times. There's a problem. There's a problem. Are you okay, though? You know what? I'm okay. And I think he even gave him a fist bump. So he's like, okay, let's just keep diving. Now, where's everybody? Like, why isn't the instructor with everyone else? Like, look at those divers are all the way down there at the bottom. It's crazy. So this guy is saying, you know, keep an eye on this guy at the top of the screen. I mean, they are dancing at the bottom in the sand, which is, once again, we established 36 meters, 120 feet or so, 118 feet. The instructor is like, well, if you have a problem, then go up. You go up. That's the right move. But however, you cannot send your student up, although he's a certified diver, so, you know, it's okay, I guess. But now you see this guy is full on panicking. Like, nut regulator in his mouth, bicycle kicking. Right? So that's another thing. And this guy, instead of going up because he has a busted eardrum, he's like, oh, let me come and film it. Why not? Like, if this guy dies, at least we'll have a cool video for the Facebookies. So this girl gives him her regulator, trying to help. The instructor comes in. The girl is like, what is going on? She just doesn't understand. She grabs her regulator. Okay, here it is, just in case I need it. This guy is just kicking. Bicycle kicking, which there's no... I mean, it's just not effective. You're not really going to get a whole lot of traction with that. At that point, the instructor just grabs the guy and says, okay, this guy's freaking out. Let's go up. And that's when you start, kind of on your way up. And then he says, he tried to bolt for the surface. The instructor pulls him down. That is the right move, though, for an instructor, is you don't want them to go and bolt to the surface. You want to, make sure they take their time to go up and don't develop bubbles in their blood. So if he grabbed them, as long as the guy was breathing, it's okay. If he's not breathing, I would just let him go to the surface, honestly. That's kind of my approach. So now they want to take this guy out of the water, and we get to see how he looks. Oh, I guess he had some water in his lungs. This girl comes along to help this guy. Are you okay? Yeah, I can't hear anything he said. Holding his hand. She's doing a great job. If she's not a dive master, I certainly hope that she went to become a dive master, because she showed tremendous calm under pressure and really helping. And then this guy just falls on the ground, and everybody's just looking at him like, okay, what do we do now? How about you give him some oxygen? Like, that is the first thing that they teach you on rescue class. They just didn't give him oxygen. It's like, just, walk it off. Walk it off. There's a beer right here on the floor. Just grab it, have a drink, walk it off. Don't worry about it. That was just really, really, really poor reaction from the instructor and the crew. Like, the guy is clearly like he's having an issue or something. Just put him in oxygen. Like, it's not gonna hurt. You can breathe all of the oxygen at the surface, at least until you get back to the shore or the dock or whatever. Just put him on oxygen, right? You don't know what's going on. Put him on oxygen. But this guy, he'd just be like, yeah, just, to make sure you just don't throw up on our boat. It's a brand new boat. Looks cool. Check out this red sights right here. Pretty awesome. Don't throw up on the boat, though. No matter what you do. And then, you see the instructor, it's him because he has like 2 computers or whatever. But anyway, that was the video for the diving disaster. So once again, not a whole lot to learn from the video itself. Nothing catastrophic happened, but I did want to talk about the equalization, making sure that you do that often, and making sure that you do that, as you go down. And if you're struggling, just go back up. Like, who cares if you're not with the group? You're not gonna get injured just because you want to stay with the group. It's the instructor's responsibility to kind of keep everyone together. So if you're up because your ears hurt, so be it. You could have equalized, keep going down little by little, equalize, and then go down. Some students struggle to equalize because they have like a sinus infection or something, like their nose is not completely unblocked and they can breathe easily, so they have a congestion and they go diving. Well, if you're congested, you're not going to be able to equalize as good, if at all. So that's why we say if you're congested, never go diving. And then, again, for this guy who panicked at 100 and something, and I think at the end he said that he went on because he wanted to become a dive master and all of that. Obviously, he's far away from that. He just needs some more training, and I would have loved to see why he panicked. Like, was it that he was narked? Was it that he felt like he was running out of air? I mean, the whole dive seems to be less than 20 minutes. The video is 7.5 minutes, like from beginning to end, including, the ending part where they're out and all of that. So the actual dive seems to be a pretty short dive. So I don't understand why, he got to a point where he doesn't even remember the dive. I've seen this before on people that don't remember things, but typically that has been on people that we've gone really, really deep, and they have DCS, they have some decompression sickness for whatever reason. I've seen it twice. One of it was a guy who had a PFO, which is a hole in your heart, basically. And we went super deep, like over 200 feet, over 60 meters for those of you outside of the U.S. And when you have a PFO, I'm not gonna get into all of this discussion, but you don't process as other people that don't have PFOs. You don't decompress and do everything the same. So because of that, he had an issue, and he had DCS, decompression sickness. And then the other one I saw was a guy that we went to the Oriskany, which is a massive wreck, and it's a deep wreck as well. And we couldn't get a buoy to connect to, so he was sitting in the sun with full gear, just waiting and waiting and waiting. And we were waiting for a spot on the wreck for like at least 30 to 40 minutes. So you're sitting in the sun, just sweating and sweating and sweating in Florida, full kit. And then he did the dive. He was dehydrated by the time he jumped in the water. And then we did a deep dive on the Oriskany. And by the time he came up, dehydration really contributes to decompression sickness. So he was put in oxygen, just like the other guy was put in oxygen as well. It's the first thing you learn when it comes to the rescue class, as I mentioned, is someone is showing signs of decompression sickness, and they both recover, and they're doing fine. But yeah, I'm not sure why he in such a shallow dive had an issue. Maybe he's susceptible to nitrogen narcosis, and that caused the problem. That causes people to drop a regulator. I was actually watching a video about Jacques Cousteau. He said he had a moment of narcosis that was so bad that his brain was telling him, look, at this depth, you're basically a fish. Why don't you take the regulator out of your mouth and breathe water like a fish? Like, his brain was convincing him that he could breathe water. So that's how bad narcosis can get. But Jack was doing like 300-foot dives in air. Like, he was narked out of his mind. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned some new things. Thank you so much for subscribing. Those of you who are, watching the channel and finding the content interesting and then subscribing. As I mentioned, we have a bunch of things that we want to give away once we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. So please go ahead and subscribe if you're watching this. YouTube keeps recommending those videos, keeps recommending, you keep clicking on them, but not subscribing. It's free. Come on, just hit the subscribe button and show us some support so we can get to 1,000 and give away some of these things we want to, share with y'all. And hopefully before we get there, we have even more things to give away because I really want to, do it big and kind of give back to those who are showing support and encouraging us. Without you, this channel wouldn't exist. Most of the videos that we have created, if not all of the videos that we have created, have been because you guys have asked us to react to them. So you either send us emails at info@divetalkmedia.com, or you send us, you post messages, comments on these videos and ask us to go ahead and review this video or that video, or react to certain accident or whatever it is. So if you have any more of those requests, please go ahead and do that. Other than that, once again, like the video, subscribe if you haven't done that already, and share the video with your friends. Hopefully they'll find them cool and interesting just like you did. Other than that, we'll see you on the next one. I think the next reaction video may have 2 people in it. Trying to work out the logistics, but I think we're going to pull it off. See you then.